Thank you all for coming today, and for everybody tuning in via YouTube. Thank you for joining us. My name is Paloma Lopez, and I am the Education Manager for the Indian Arts Research Center here at the School for Advanced Research. SAR is situated on traditional Tewa lands, and our campus is surrounded by the landscapes of Pueblo, Apache, and Dene communities, all of whom maintain vital connections to this place. Today's event is the third of 4 in this year's Native Arts Speaker Series. We are so pleased and honored that Suzanne Herrera Naranjo is here with us today to share about her journey and her practice. Suzanne's artistry focuses on innovations in needlework, specifically embroidery, crochet, knitting, and sewing Pueblo apparel. At an early age, she was inspired by her grandparents, Marcus and Benarita Naranjo from Santa Clara, Pueblo. As they engaged in their traditional crafts, she is a self-taught crochet and knitting artist, incorporating performance improvement techniques to tailored apparel. After retiring as a medical laboratory scientist, she took an embroidery class at the Poeh Center to enhance her embroidery skills. While she creates her needlework art, she prays for strength and longevity to those who wear her creations for traditional ceremonies. Seeing her work on various generations and being inspired by other fiber artists pushes her to continue her style of customized needlework. Please join me in welcoming Suzanne Herrera Naranjo.
To start out today's presentation. Nabi Tasibam Kundawoha Nabi Kundawoha Nabi Tarain Nabi Jiain Nabi Blue Nabi Bade in Hong Kong UCDO Nata the Hagit Nami Ne Tumkong Ogapoge Owinge Hera Ding I Ningirang Ne Awe Wosi Di Mani Hera. Extend blessings to all who have come here today. Hingho Kundawoha. So, welcome everyone to today's presentation, Part 3, A Stitch in Time, with Pueblo embroidery and other needlework art. It's all part of the Weaving History series sponsored by SAR in collaboration with sponsorship from the Pueblo Cultural Center as well as the Pueblo Fiber Arts Guild. It's such an honor to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. I also have to thank my fellow members who are Pueblo Fiber artists. We all share one among each other, and I consider them as part of my family. So I'd like to begin the presentation also with sharing my background, and then we'll go into the needlework art, the crocheting, the knitting, and finally a whole lot of embroidery. So these are my grandparents, Benarita Naranjo and Marcus Naranjo. They're from the Pueblo of Santa Clara. They speak fluent Tewa and extended their knowledge of the Tewa world to me. They lived in Santa Fe. They also had a home in Santa Clara, and we would go back and forth. They were accomplished traditional artists as well as successful in their professional careers. They encouraged me to embrace not only the teachings of the Western world, but our traditional Tewa teachings. And what I'd like to share next is my experiences with the academic world. I was schooled here in the public school system in Santa Fe. Later on, went on to graduate with a double major in biology and medical laboratory sciences from the University of New Mexico School of Medicine Laboratory Sciences program. It was important to me to work with my Pueblo communities, and I elected to work with the Albuquerque Area Indian Health Service Unit and retired after 30 years as their senior medical microbiologist, also performing laboratory inspections for the Albuquerque area service units. And the skills I gained in this profession really benefited me as a Pueblo fiber artist. This slide here is of one of the really amazing feast days that we have at Santa Clara Pueblo. And the Tewa teachings, the Tewa language through song and dance is a wholehearted felt experience. You learn respect, you learn the values of respecting our traditional apparel, the contributions of the drummers and the singers, and we also learn cooking skills. And throughout the whole village, you hear Tewa around the corner, unlike the academic world where it's strictly English. But as a little girl, I also grew up speaking Tewa in the public school systems, and it was so funny because I'd say, "Dime," that means "give me that," to the little kids in elementary school, and they didn't know what I was saying. So my grandfather isn't in this photo here, but he would be bringing in the 2 rows of dancers during our feast day. He was a very important person. This next slide shows me dancing up at Poeh Cliffs when we still had dances there. And I was so happy my grandma made my first manta. It wasn't out of embroidered yarn, though. It was out of magic markers, because you can imagine raising my aunts and uncles. I was raised in my grandparents' household. So, picking up and getting everybody ready. We didn't get my embroidered manta in there, but she just whipped that out with the magic markers. And of course, I was last in line. Here I am in my teen years to my right, and we're up at Poeh Cliffs again. And this time, I'm actually one of the lead ladies. So I learned to listen, I learned respect, I watched, the others in front of me while I was small dancing, and it was my turn to help guide our dancers. Here I am with my younger cousins and the teachings and guidance. It was now my turn to transfer that on to them. You'll see we wear a green scarf. With the corn dance, we at one time wore green scarves as well as yellow scarves. Here, feast days also means family gatherings and cooking, baking. And I just really wanted to share this because we place family of primary importance. Give to them, nourish them, and then share that among others. Here's a picture of my granddad, Marcus, sporting a new necklace he's going to wear for feast day. And it was my grandfather, Marcus, who inspired me to do crocheting. We weren't allowed to touch men's garments, but on this particular feast day preparation, he said, he noticed me at the kitchen table crocheting yet another pot holder. And he said, "Go back and see if you can repair your uncle's leggings." He said, "I have them laid out on the bed." So I ran there like Speedy Gonzales and did my best, and I passed. So not only did I start out repairing old leggings, I started creating my own versions. These are the white cotton crochet leggings in action. Here's a young boy that I crocheted a custom pair for, and they have the traditional lightning design going up. Here's a picture of one of my cousins sporting the wider version of the legging, the lightning design on the legging there. In 2002, while I was still working, I also had time to do a little bit of crochet, and these were collected by the Penn Museum. And these are an older form of crochet leggings that I made. You can see there's tabs at the top and the traditional lightning design. This slide here shows the various crochet stitches that I apply to completing a legging. I won't go into detail, but there's slip stitch, double crochet, treble crochet, reverse single crochet, and they all add up to a really nice garment. I want to show just a larger version of the legging photo there. This is the body of the legging. This is the ankle area, stirrups to secure the legging around the feet, and the top portion here. You also have the side area where you attach the fringe. The fringe is all hand spun, and while repairing leggings, I noticed that to avoid holes in the body, I wanted to create a separate ridge to where the hand spun fringe was attached. These represent clouds and rain, so that avoids holes, in making more holes, in the body of the legging and having to repair that. Secondly, up here, you see 2 tabs there. In some pueblos, they wear the fringing to the side. In other pueblos, like ours, we wear the fringing to the front. So then I devised this cloud functional area wherein this provides multiple areas of attachment for the string that's secured to a belt to hold up the legging. Now, these leggings that we wear are thigh high. Some pueblos wear them below the knee. And in the ankle area, which is the area that I had to repair for my uncle's legging, I created this stretch stitch, so there would be no problem getting the foot in. And then it conforms back to size. Through my participation in traditional dances, I also incorporate designs that reflect the interpretation of our songs. So this particular legging has natural springs with lightning. There's immature corn here growing with the falling rain, and mature corn up here. And this is an arrow from the lightning coming up. And these fringes represent clouds. There's a little cloud ball here with rain. So crocheting is my first love. Since we're on the subject of legs, I included a pair of knitted black wool stockings. And they're actually right and left sides. As you can see, the rain cables on each side are going opposite directions. These knitted stockings are primarily a stockinette stitch with the garter stitch on the top and the bottom, and you increase as you go along. Same as the leggings. When I customize them, I measure the men's ankle, the calf, below the knee, and then the upper thigh. And I personalize, if they request it. So I use 5 double-pointed needles to knit a pair of black leggings. This next slide is a picture of one of the more earlier black knitted stockings that I made. You really can't see the feather design, but there's a feather design in there that's made from a seed stitch, a knitted seed stitch. All right, so now we're back to crochet. My son, David Naranjo, is a talented 2-dimensional artist, and he also does textiles. He transfers his 2D art to fabric, and I was lucky to get a hold of one of his creations, and I wondered, how can I apply my craft? So I crochet edgings along his fabric and then attach fringe to represent rain. The edgings themselves represent clouds. And here's another one of his designs. This is done on silk. And I ordered this yarn out of Bulgaria so that it can reflect and actually look like beads. And then this is the rain. This design actually is called Poeh, and it means flower leaf in Tewa. Here's the negative in black primarily, with the rain cascading down in the form of fringe. Now, us Pueblo women really like floral fabric, and we love our shawls. So in this particular one, this is cotton material, and it's a floral kokum shawl material. And I crocheted a generous amount of clouds there for the edging and the fringe as well. Now, the crocheting equally distributes the weight, not only of multiple rows of crochet and the fringe, so that you don't get as many tears, and it also serves to protect the fabric. Here's another shawl. This is out of Ukraine and the Eastern European countries, the design. And I also have this shawl back here. It's out of one of the Eastern European countries, and it's lightweight wool as opposed to acrylic, silk, and the cotton fabric. So this slide here, if you haven't noticed, I've been talking about clouds and rain a lot. I took a weaving class at the Poeh Cultural Center because I wanted to learn how to make these cloud balls that were affixed to the rain sash. And I have one here where you can see the cloud balls. And so that was my main idea. I'm going to learn how to make the cloud balls. So little did I know, the instructor at Poeh Cultural Center, who is here today, Chris Velarde, said, "That's not the way it's done. You are going to make a sash along with your cloud balls." So through his generous instruction and commitment to teaching at the Poeh Cultural Arts Center, I also learned how to weave. Okay, my fascination with clouds. I often wondered, what did our ancestors see when they looked up in the sky, and how did they get the idea that they wanted to make candy cane clouds, is what I first called them, and they're crescent wave clouds, and they actually exist. They're a rare form of cloud, and they're called Kelvin-Helmholtz clouds, and you can see them here, and primarily on that black manta there. They occur in mountainous regions, and they're formed from two opposing air currents, one that travels at high speeds on the top and one that travels at a lower speed on the bottom, so they create these crescents. So you imagine what else our ancestors saw and used them on their designs. So we're finally to embroidery, and we're going to spend a lot of time here. So my inspiration early on for embroidery was my grandmom, who's on my right there with her father. This is one of the earliest designs that she embroidered on a kilt and that I use today. I recall one time in the Pueblo at her sister's home, they all gathered to embroider, and out of nowhere all these ladies came, and it became such a fun day of sharing, their craft and ideas. And what I remember, not only did the individual who brought their piece work on it, but other ladies gathered around to help. So it was a combined effort with the completed piece. One day, while we were there, she said to me, she said, you look, you listen, and then you ask questions, because, she said, "Oh, Tsawe," which is my Tewa name, blue water. She said, "Oh, Tsawe, tikabea, tikabea, tikabea." That means, "Oh, Tsawe, anuke, little girl, you need to stop asking so many questions. You wander around asking questions." So her advice proved to be very useful to me today. My other mentors, Romancita Sandoval, who is an accomplished embroiderist who exhibited at numerous Indian markets. I watched her spin her yarn, soak it and dry it, and I got to roll it into balls for her. And again, the same advice: look, listen, observe. And she is the grandmother of my sons. Can't say enough about Poeh Cultural Center and their efforts to keep traditional arts going. This is Sean Tafoya, my instructor. In 2018, he selflessly gives of his knowledge and has the patience to mentor 12 women at a time. And it was such a great gathering. It reminded me of the times I spent with my grandmom, in that we'd have potlucks, we'd all share ideas and ask questions of the more experienced embroiderers in our class. And I'd like to mention Carol Brewer from Santa Clara. She's an amazing traditional artist, not only embroidery, but in pottery and sewing. Mercedes Beckerhoff, who I worked with at the Indian Hospital here in Santa Fe. She's also an amazing embroideress among her other talents. Let's see, other individuals that you may see at the Fiber Arts Show who are embroiderers and seamstresses. Let's see, Sage Mountain Flower and Native Arts of the Rio Grande, Patricia Maestas. This is a piece of my first kilt that Sean Tafoya helped me complete, and it was exhibited at one of the Poeh Cultural Arts Center shows. It's made from commercial monk's cloth, which is an even weave cotton cloth. This particular one happens to have 14 rows to the inch, both horizontally as well as vertically. And that's what makes it an even weave cloth. So I embroider and prefer actually that. It's very durable as well. This next slide here shows the three musketeers, Miss Alicia, Louis Garcia, and myself at the end. And this particular piece was acquired by IARC, and it's on an uneven weave foundation cloth. It's hand woven. In this particular piece, there's 20 rows with the warp and 10 rows woven weft. So the ratio is 1:2, which means if you don't repeat your pattern, you might get a skewed version of your design. So each successive row is a repeat of the first row to achieve that even design. And this kilt came at a time when COVID-19 was happening. And again, through song and dance that I learned at the Pueblo, I display this on the design and also what's occurring in the Western world around us and the Tewa world. So in this particular kilt, it's called the COVID-19 kilt. And I embroidered and outlined the Delta variant of COVID. And the Delta is the Greek symbol and Omicron for the other more common variant in this slide. And down here, I showed through our prayer, song, and dance, we were able to get the vaccines out. And this shows an incorporation of the Delta and Omicron variant vaccines into our cellular makeup. And again, you see my Kelvin Helmholtz clouds here. The kilts of our Tewa Pueblo usually have a border of rain here and warrior bars. This kilt here is a brother to the COVID-19 kilt in that it reflects and addresses climate change with the 2 red stripes in this fertility area. Actually, there's 3, 1, 2, 3. And also, it reflects discontinuity or the war that's been going on, in that these 2 arrows are reflecting each other in opposite directions. And these fertility symbols aren't in the usual way that they should be. So much discord, and we offer our prayers that all this will resolve. And together we can accomplish that. To also address innovative techniques, my fascination again with cloud balls, I went ahead and wove this mini rain sash to the strings that come off the woven fabric. And it serves 2 purposes. 1, it stops unraveling, and 2, it's also decorative. So the rain sash here, a little cloud ball in rain. The next slide is addressing some requests for men's vests. Here, a family that is Pewaukee and Santa Clara, 2 gentlemen on the end, they requested custom-made vests. And the gentleman in the middle is wearing a custom-made vest. He's part Hopi, and he has a Hopi sash design vest on his. This design here is done on an uneven weave cloth, and I incorporated crochet on the bottom to reflect the clouds and the rain. And this embroidery here, I used 4-ply acrylic yarn, loosely spun, to reflect the 1-to-2 ratio, of the weft. So it's loosely spun, and it covers really nicely that uneven weave. So I just, like to experiment. This vest was acquired by the Poeh Cultural Center last year, and what really stands out to me at dusk about the Poeh Cultural Center is the reflection of the mica that they utilize in their building structures. So at dusk and at evening twilight, you can see the stars sparkling from the mica stars that I call them, reflecting from the buildings. So I incorporated that in the vest in these little areas. Stars here, and then stars in the clouds. And I love these earthy tones of acrylic, and they remind me of the spiny oyster shell that the southern Pueblos utilize in their jewelry. Here is a Pueblo men's ceremonial shirt, and actually I've seen women wear them as well. It has a star design along with a little feather symbol in black there, and it's reminiscent of my grandfather making me dancing feather tools as I danced. So it's a tribute to my grandfather, and if he were living, I'm sure, still living, he would have worn this. This is a photo of the cape embroidery that I'm wearing. This actually started out to be a kilt, and then I just kept going up and up, and I said, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to make me a cape. And so that's what this turned out to be, along with crochet, edgings, fringe, and my favorite little cloud balls for buttons. These are crochet. It just so happened that this past year at Santa Fe Indian Market 2023, this Pueblo Ceremonial shirt was awarded the Division C first place in textiles. Thank you. Now, I've been embroidering for about 8 years now, and I'm a work in progress yet. And like I said, there are fantastic mentors out there that I still go to for guidance. Again, this is an indigo wool manta, commercial woven foundation fabric. And I wanted to emphasize, again, my fascination with the Kevin Helmholtz clouds. There's a generous amount of embroidery at the top. And to depict the shifting winds, I utilized green in the design. You know, one row of green going up and the other row of green coming down. So, yeah, and of course there's other motifs there representing the coming of spring, the butterfly, dances happening, flowers, and prayers for peace. And this is a 3-tiered manta embroidery on the bottom. You have 3 different sections, and then the lifelines going through, dividing the second layer from the first layer. Now, I also incorporated crochet in this manta because the bottom and the sides, it was a very old cloth, and I wanted to conserve that. So I did a reverse single crochet crab stitch, which is a very tough stitch, and it helps retain any further phrase, and it's also decorative. And these pom-poms there represent, again, the clouds and rain. Well, embroidery has afforded me many opportunities, and I had the chance to travel to Phoenix this past year in March, and I displayed and entered Here She Is into their evaluation, and she was awarded first place in my division. And here I am showing my display, much as I've tried to present to you today with this arrangement. Now, this portion of this white manta, which is on the back of this, represents the carry-through of our traditional colors, the red and green there. And we start our dances in the morning with the sunrise and end before the sunset with the orange colors. The top portion there with black represents a heavy concentration of moisture, which we pray for in irrigation of our fields. But I just wanted to emphasize the carry-through of the traditional colors in this specific manta. Here I wanted to depict, in this motif, the large tiered cloud adorning the cloud house where you see the motif. Here again, the carrying through of traditional colors, and this return stitch here, I call it the Sean invention return stitch because it's very decorative and functional in that you get a nice even border with the manta. Here I'm depicting a multi-tiered cloud, and you can see it on this as well. We also wear, in addition to the green and yellow scarves that I mentioned, we wear turquoise scarves and red scarves as well. So I included that in this manta. Here's Tansido in our Tewa language, which means old man's son. In this particular motif, I display horizontal embroidery as well as vertical embroidery, and I originally wanted to use Angora wool hair to surround and frame him, and I couldn't find any, so I utilized eyelash yarn and embroidered that around, and it also mimics the sun's rays and feathers too. Yeah, in these next slides, I want to share all the different types of motifs that I've created. In this particular one, the antenna of the butterfly, it has horizontal and vertical embroidery as well as little French knots. And I don't know, I just got into detail one day with that. This is a depiction of a sunflower. And in this particular motif, I used French knots to reflect the seeds and give it like a three-dimensional look. Here, this is a watermelon blossom, and I love my watermelon. This is a motif of a squash blossom. It's also represented by the man's headdress of our Pueblo. And it also displays the horizontal and vertical embroidery, as well as that reverse turn stitch that I mentioned is Chantafoya's specialty. This motif here represents a shadowed effect of the flower there, along with many clouds, and diagonal embroidery to emphasize the evergreen branches. This is a dragonfly that I went and put on my daughter's manta, her first manta. We had several ponds up at Santa Clara, and we would go fishing there, and several dragonflies would line up on her fishing pole, and she just loved, tapping on it, and all these miracles of dragonfly Tinkerbells would fly. So I personalized that for her. And here are clouds and rain in the large cloud house motif. There's also vegetation in there and the sunset behind. Here's a butterfly I did for my daughter as well. Her Spanish name is Mariposa, and Mariposa translates to butterfly. When you come to the Pueblo Fiber Arts Show on May 11th from 10 to 4, you'll see a model adorned in this type of Pueblo apparel. You'll also see another model. So please do come. It's the first Pueblo Arts fashion show and the 13th annual Pueblo Fiber Arts Show. Now, the Poeh Cultural Center is located in Poeh at 78 Cities of Gold Road, and if you look to the right as you're headed north, you'll see these outstanding structures. And here's my fashion model crew. And Otawe Blue Water Tewa Textiles. And I'd like to thank SAR, IARC, Poeh Cultural Center, Pueblo Fiber Arts, and my fellow Pueblo artists, and especially, primarily our ancestors, for their gifts in helping us along our path. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing all of your beautiful creations with us. Does anybody have any questions for Suzanne? Here you go.
I can't help but notice that dress, whatever that was also in the slide. Can you? It is so. It's just exceptional. Could you talk a little more about it? And
Oh, sure.
Stitches?
This one here?
Yes.
This was my second manta. I believe I made my first manta for my daughter, a white cotton manta. This is all commercial woven cloth from Mizell's. That was in existence in Albuquerque up until the 1990s. And I believe it was a family-owned business, and they were particularly well known for their murals. But there were also weavers there, and a friend of mine provided the fabric and said, you can go wild with any type of design you'd like to do. So I prayed on it, and what better resource to use than the IARC library and collection of textiles here. So what I did was I extrapolated from a manta they had there in terms of size and calculated the best amount of embroidery to go on the bottom as well as the top. And this particular weave is 28 count. So when I started out, I skipped every other row to start and continue the embroidery. So it was really a chore because the material is dark, it's tightly woven, and I had to count, each row, and then, create my design to where it would best fit. Now there's quite a bit of math involved, so I was glad I minored in math. And the end result was this design. This is all wool. I hand spin my wool using a leg spindle there that I have, and then I soak the wool. And it's important to soak wool, especially if it's hand-dyed, because you want to let the excess dye run out, and then after I soak it in hot water, I take it outside and I let it air dry, and it shrinks the yarn and makes it even nice and tighter to work with. So this bottom area, as I said, reflects the coming of spring, butterflies, dances in our pueblos, our mountains, our kivas. This is the life spirit line of the manta here, and it's crocheted as well as down here and then up on the side. Up here on the third layer, I skipped the second layer. The second layer here has clouds, and the third layer here has prayers for peace and flowers. Now, when I was designing the flower, I thought, boy, this sure looks like the female reproductive area. The womb, the fallopian tubes, uterus, and I thought, boy, they really were praying for, fertility and maybe increasing the number of population back then, and sending prayers for the crops and flowers. These are chevron signs which reflect peace and offers of prayer here. Yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, the shifting clouds here with the air currents, I have these triangular symbols, these going down, pointing down, while these are pointing up, creating the fast air current on the top and the slower moving air current on the bottom, creating these Kelvin Helmholtz clouds.
It's amazing.
If you were to just guess
Oh, you know, I'm not able to do embroidery full time, but this piece took me 1.5 years, close to 1.5 years. Yeah.
It's really spectacular.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Do we have any other questions for Suzanne from the audience? Oh, here we go.
Thank you so much. I was just wondering if you're going to be displaying or showing at the Indian market this summer?
I haven't got that far, but as I understand it, I did apply, and acceptance letters are coming out this week. That, you know, I'm trying to finish up customized orders, so I'm not sure if that's possible, but I'm really going to try. And please come. There's fantastic fiber artists at the Indian market as well.
I have a question for you, Suzanne, actually. You've spoken a lot about the people who have sort of encouraged you and inspired you and taught you, and I'm just looking at all of your incredible work and your skill and your knowledge. Is teaching something that you would do in the future? Is that something you'd like to do?
I feel pretty good about teaching crochet, and Chris Velarde over there, who's my weaving instructor, also is the director of cultural traditional arts there, and he did ask me to present a class in crochet, so eventually I'll do that.
Okay.
But like I said, with embroidery, I'm really still a work in progress, so if you can imagine my mentors, they're very accomplished embroiderers.
Well, thank you so much for sharing
Of
your
course.
journey and your practice with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone.
And as Suzanne said, the Pueblo Fiber Arts Show is on Saturday, May 11th from 10 to 4 at the Poeh, so please join us. Suzanne will be headlining the fashion show, actually. The fashion show starts at 1 o'clock, so please come by, join us, check out the incredible work that we'll have there. And then our final event for this speaker series is 1 week from today, and that's Iva Hanestewa, and she'll be talking about basket making, so please come. Thank you. And eat food. Thank you.
Kundawo habi